Everyone, we are going to call this meeting to order. Thank you so much for being here. At this time, we're going to open with our Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to stand. So, Dr. Wyatt has asked that is that our cadet back there? Would you come forward and lead us in the pledge?
Place your right hand over the heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask you a question? So where do you know me from?
I'm from Fontana, California.
Where do you know me from, though?
Where do I know you from?
Yeah.
You work
wanna
with my
admit
dad,
Who's your dad?
Dwayne Ford.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right.
Thank
Well, thank you.
Good
You did a
job.
great job. We appreciate that.
Hey, your dad said hello.
All right, we are now at item 1.3, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. We will not have no, we're not gonna have that. So we can vote, you need us to vote manually. Okay. Dr. Flores? Yes. Yes? Okay, all yays. All yays, got it? Okay, motion carried. All right, 2.0 closed session. And so we have, I don't believe we have any public comments, or if we do, all right. And so I would like to ask, we really don't formally have a closed session. So I'm going to ask if we can just move forward to our open session, if that's okay. All right, we'll move and then we will convene for other things at the end of the meeting, if that's okay. So for now, you have a book in front of you. And this is the information that was compiled over our 2-day, well, it was more than 2 days actually, well, our 1 day, but 2 meeting, public and online, and with our youth and with our management team. Did I miss anyone, Dr. Vogelford? Who else, other groups we had? Were those all the groups? So what you will find in the front of the book, obviously, was how we were guided by the conversation, the strengths of the district, the greatest needs and critical issues for the district, the superintendent's desired characteristics. Everyone had an opportunity to look at this list and add to the list. And then, Dr. Volkermer and the IT team was so kindly enough, and his team, to put together every single comment that was made, was added in the front of the book that you'll see, all of those markers. It'll break it down according to which groups gave input. And then we see the total combined of all of the comments. And what's more importantly, I'm going to direct your attention to the blue tabbed section. This is a section is pretty much the summary of everything, and it's a little bit more condensed for us to kind of look at those. So we'll take those together individually and begin to look at the compiled in the blue tabs, starting with the strengths. We find that there were 411 participants. So we are certainly happy about everyone that gave input into this process. 411, actually. They gave us the information. So board members, this is, a public meeting, and so we will discuss, we will dialogue. So if we want to start with all of us, we will look at the greatest needs and see what we saw in that section. Or not the greatest news, I'm sorry.
Madam President, I'd like
Thanks.
the public to know that this is the first time we're seeing this as well. This is the first time the board is seeing them.
Yes.
So
So we're looking right now, we're going to look at the strength sections. And that's where you will see that's page 1, beginning of the blue tabs. Yes.
Number 5, what is DL? I'm sure I should know DLI, but I don't.
Dual language immersion.
Dual, okay, thank
Dual-
you.
Correct, okay. And so she was looking at item number 5, a dual language immersion and rates program, like,
Madam President, may I make
Yes.
one quick comment?
sure.
Just so board, in terms of process, as you start to get through the data and want to make changes to the original list, we have them up here displayed, as you can see
Yes.
on the display boards. And we're ready to make the changes. When you come to consensus on a change, we want to change number 2, we want to remove number 4, we want to add another one to number 11 or 12. We're prepared to do that right on the spot for you.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Flores?
I know that strengths are really important and greatest needs are critical. I wonder if we could start, because of time, if we could start with superintendent desired characteristics
I agree.
and work back, because those are the key ones. I mean, the
Okay,
strengths is
got it.
great to know.
All right, okay, let's go to the,
that
so what
okay? Is
she,
that
absolutely, we'll go to page 40, what is it, 50?
50, yeah.
And we will begin to look at those characteristics.
Should we read them?
It's
Everybody knows
so
it?
many, yeah, because we'd be, if we want to, if you want to share out, I don't know if we want to read every one of these.
Okay.
That would really take a while. Some of them are
Maybe
narrative.
could
Yes,
we
300.
take time to pick 10
Okay, so each
apiece?
board member, I'll say this, why don't you pick 1 to 10? Some may have more than others, but highlight the ones that you want to either comment on or add. We'll do the comment on first. Is that good? We'll comment first, and then if we have anything we want to add. So 1 to 10.
Actually,
Yes.
welcome. We have 1 to 325. So, are there in any specific order?
They're in no order other than the.
Weighted.
Correct. There is no waiting at all.
So, actually, to read these, and I was reading some of the ones from the students.
You can go into that section and just pull out.
To
Yeah.
me, I don't know why we would. Oh, to me, it's important to read all the ones with the desired characteristics, so we can just take time to read those.
Okay.
If we want to discuss,
Yeah.
highlight a couple.
So
we can.
okay, so are you asking to read all of them?
I want
out?
to just read through them.
That's what that's what we want to do right now. And then if you want to add, everybody can speak on, 1 or 10, if you so choose to, out of the superintendent. That's what we're looking at right now. And you mentioned something about the students?
No, because I was reading the ones in the front where it has.
Oh, yes, the compiled information.
Right, but they have separate groups, so the one is the student advisory,
Yeah,
which is interesting to see some of those.
what the students said. Dr. Volkman?
The information is the exact same, it's just in 2 different formats. You have the
can see
segmented
it broken
format
down.
first, and then you have all of the comments related to
Together.
strengths, all of the comments related to critical needs. So there's no difference in the information other than how it's presented.
And they all add up to the same amount. So every item in the student management is in the front.
Correct.
And so really,
Responses.
I think it actually reads better. I think it reads better if you read it in the sections.
Okay.
Because for instance, when you read the students,
Okay, so, well, okay, whatever the pleasure of the board, so let's get on one page again. So everyone gave a consensus that you wanted to go to the superintendent's characteristics first, and then we were gonna go backtrack so we can kind of capture
my point
what
is
group
this, I
said.
still agree we're gonna do the characteristics, the desired characteristics, but there's a column in the,
In each right,
but it means a whole lot more when you read
Absolutely.
it and understand what the groups are saying.
what
'Cause it's
each,
kinda
the
amazing
voice
that-
of the group, I agree.
Because it's kind of amazing, the students saying they want somebody that's humble, somebody from
Mm-hmm.
the area, but it means more seeing it from that.
So you're recommending that we go back to the sections of the desired characteristics by group, like students, community,
Exactly.
et cetera? Okay.
We're
I
still
agree.
going to read the
We'll go
desired
through this one
characteristics,
first.
but by group.
Okay, by group, not read all of them together? I mean, go
No.
back and read by group?
Right, don't do the blue tab.
Okay, do the other one.
Do the white tabs,
Okay,
but only the desired.
Only desired characteristics of the superintendent.
President, with the blue ones, I thought Dr. Bokerman said that covered,
It did.
it covered everybody.
I
But
think,
you don't know who gave it to you.
yeah,
That's okay.
if you want to share it out, I think.
I guarantee you, Dr. Hill, if you read the desired characteristics from the Student Advisory Council, it just adds something knowing that it's from
Yeah.
from the student. It's a different twist, and you get a feel for what they're looking for. And I'm sure it can be the same with all the groups, but it is good to get a feel for what the groups want.
Okay, so we're gonna look at the,
Well, if you're gonna, technically, if you're gonna do it by that, it's the same and you just know the group. So going back to the blue tab is a consolidation of what you're already looking at separately. So you're gonna see it, so we can move from each group and look at each desired characteristic anyway.
But I'll give you a good example. It says, number one, leadership qualities, accountability, integrity, whatever. But you don't know which group said that.
That's why I said if we started here, it probably was better to determine.
Why?
We know that we're looking at students saying what his
said it.
characteristic, we're looking at parents, what they
That's why I
said.
said it. Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
can I assume then we are looking at the student group, the desired characteristics
Right.
first?
First.
And Dr. Volkmer, is it safe to say that the community forum, those are the ones we were here with, right? So we heard those already.
Correct. So
Right.
on the tab
We
that says
saw-
Community Forum AM and Community Forum PM,
Right.
you were
Heard those
you were
already.
there for all those.
We had this many online?
And you can see a breakdown of who actually went online in terms of the percentage of, excuse me, percentage of the respondents that were students, parents, community members, et cetera. You can see the pie chart there, just for your additional information.
And if you notice, there's staff there, which are in high numbers online, which makes sense too.
But we don't have a separate tab for, like certificated employees, huh?
Cause they all,
So,
All in the online thing?
correct.
right, cause everyone couldn't make it to the meeting, so.
So there were, as we recall, there were certificated staff members, classified staff members that came to both community forums, but we didn't break that data down because we didn't ask them to identify it on the spot.
Okay, I have a few.
Okay, so I'll just start to the left then. Mrs. Rosales-Medina,
Okay. So first of all, we want to make sure that we're looking at the student voice. And as you're seeing this, you can see prioritizing student involvement, something that we have to try to make sure that they're feeling engaged. And how do we engage them at different levels, especially when it comes to meetings? I know that we try to involve them. But I think this would be a great way where they're the main focus. And then we go around them because they're the ones that are going to be impacted by whatever we're going to be passing. So just making sure that we use their voice. And then another one was someone familiar with San Bernardino, not just from a far area, someone who sees it as a great job to have. So I mean, they're looking at someone that has either been in the area or is not too far from the area, that knows our community's needs. I saw that this was another important one. When it comes to management team, I saw thought-provoking supports the multilingual initiative. It's very important. Another piece I saw, which is still addressing the African-American students, equity focus, values, equity focus, accountability. That will be crucial as well. Commitment to development in leaders, another part where it said, lives in San Bernardino, authentic, humble, respectful. And now when I go to the community aspect, community input, one is very open, very transparent, approachable, teachers' input considered. And when I look at teachers' input considered, I also want to look at classified, all employees, so that way their voices, and I imagine the bargaining units, making sure that their voices are included in the process, and to continue established relationships and inclusion. When I see the word inclusion, also, I want to make sure that we are a superintendent that addresses the different needs of our students. And that goes with IEP, 504, also with the gifted portion. I think that's very important. And then the PM, which is the evening session, community input. This is where I saw more of the parent involvement, something that's effectively engaging parents. Another portion which is continuing to engage parents and community engagement as well. And an open to creative and inclusion culture, what I read. Disability, like I mentioned earlier, is another key point. And someone that lives in the area. I think when we look at that, just making sure that I keep reading this, someone that lives in the area that understands our student-specific needs. And if it's someone that's willing to move to the area, like Dr. Morrison had as well. For my input.
Thank you. Dr. Flores?
Yes, I went ahead and just marked them by page and number. So for the Student Advisory Council, it's pretty loud and clear. I chose number 5. I highlighted number 5 on page 1. Integrity and a person who listens to the concerns of students. And later on, they say it and acted on them as well. So I would add who listens and acts on student concerns. Integrity is a really important characteristic. To me, integrity means what you say is what you do. And if you don't do it, you lack integrity. Number 9 on page 1, someone from this community. I concur with Ms. Medina, Rosales-Medina. Someone from this community willing to work with community programs. And on page 2, number 11, approachable to students, more involvement with schools, interest in the well-being of our students. And I would like to add here that we have to pay more attention to our middle schools and our high schools because I think we have neglected them. And I would like to add, I mean, it's not on here, but someone who has high school background, who's been a high school principal. That was that one. Management team, I only have 3. On page 1, number 2 and number 3, thought-provoking, supports the multilingual initiative, as Ms. Medina also said, is a member of our community and is willing to be part of the community, innovative and visible. I want to add that the reason Dr. Marsden moved here is because that was a requirement that we put as board members, that they had to live in our community. And we gave them an incentive of 20 grand.
We gave an incentive. Legally, you can't make somebody.
Can't make them, but we gave them an incentive, yeah, right.
The previous superintendent, we gave the same incentive.
And he didn't
take us
move,
up
yeah,
on it. No.
Number 3, values, equity focus, African-American students, accountability to continue our work that we're doing. Someone who will continue and expand upon the things we are currently doing, working on, equity, site leader content. It's important that we don't lose this momentum. The stuff that we've done with English language learners, with our African-American task force and our Latino task force, that we're continuing. On page 2, number 5, commitment to development of leaders, lives in San Bernardino or in the area, authentic, humble, respectful, accepted by, respected by, committed to all cultures, hyper-focused on our culture, the culture of our organization. For community forum, in the morning. I thought that page 1, number 6, that she or he has a deep understanding of K-12 programs and consider a non-male. I know we can't pick who we, female or male, but it would be nice to have a female touch. So, number 7, integrity, again, being able to address issues specifically targeting African Americans, also all our kids, actually. Okay, that was that one. On page 3, number 20, we really have to have somebody that pays attention to bullying in our elementary schools, throughout all our schools, and make that a priority board, but someone who follows through. We need someone that will follow through. Also, in terms of parents, it's very important. Number 21, be accessible to all parents, especially those from our low socioeconomic status. And number 22, support the programs for students, support for more students to reclassify at the elementary school level, and continue to support students to get and earn high school diplomas. On page 4, bilingual, preferably bilingual, or understands the bilingual community and is really attentive to the community. More support for basic schools because it's the foundation for a good future for our children. And then the last one on page 6, number 34, cares about our interests, loves our community, and loves our children, loves his or her job, is passionate, cares less about all the zeros in his or her paycheck, works as a team with district and community students and youth, and brings big positive changes for our community. In the PM, page 1, I had continue parent and community engagement. And again, love children and parents, everybody. Page 2, number 5, our new superintendent should follow up on school security budget and consider safety before and after school. And to know or live in the area would be so much easier to understand our community, etc. Number 3, page 3, number 11, superintendent who interacts with students and holds sit-down meetings with students, willing to hear what students have to say, superintendent who sits and speaks with students. Page 4, number 16, have some characteristics to be able to bring stakeholders together, effective and highly qualified to get the job done, inclusive of the city, the county, our faith-based organizations, knowledgeable about the community, a strong vision for district, and a long-term vision for our district. And lastly, on page 6, characteristics of bringing people together. That's a sign of a highly competent leader, servant leader, highly qualified and effective, ready to get the job done, inclusive with other organizations, etc. And I would add, as a board member, has a track record, is a veteran superintendent that has a track record. Are we going to go to all of the other ones, the blue ones, or was it just these?
They're all the
That's
same.
just combined together.
Everybody?
No, the blue ones are,
Same thing.
Right.
it's just merged
Well,
together.
no, there were some that weren't, by the way. Well, let me just say a couple. On page 50, I would like to add number 1, number 3, and number 4. Leadership qualities, accountability, integrity, empathy, committed to our community, able to build the capacity of others, and be an excellent communicator. Number 3, Following qualities and characteristics are important: teamwork, good communication skills, good listener, provides feedback, appreciates the work of the team, good role model, optimistic, flexible, supportive, problem solver, highly committed, and I would add follows up on what they say and make sure that it's done. That has been a real issue in terms of following up. Number 4, focus on continuing what has been developed and systematized, focus and attention on our classrooms and our sites. Again, it says, would love to see more female leadership, strong moral character. Again, here we see the word integrity, et cetera, and able to run and direct our cabinet, et cetera. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Hill?
Thank you, Madam President. I was excited to read the online ones because as I read them, it looks like a lot of them came from people who are employed by the district. So I paid very close attention to those because whoever's coming in, these are the people that we expect them to certainly work with in the best possible way. So my 10, community engagement, we want someone who will understand that 777 North F Street is not the office. The office is all of San Bernardino City. It's someone who's not going to micromanage and allow our leaders to lead. I want someone, and this came up often, who lived locally, but I would think that might mean San Bernardino, East Highland Ranch, or something close by, but preferably San Bernardino. We know we can't mandate someone to do that, but when you live here, you know here, and you know here, you can do here. And when you can do here, people are excited, especially students, parents and others, as they see you in Stater Brothers, Ross, Food for Less, or wherever, you decide to go. Yeah, Cardenas, exactly. I listed this because surprisingly, I only saw where a few mentioned curriculum, but a lot of support for the current cabinet and keep in place what's already going on. So people are looking at, we're at a good place, let's not go backwards. So it's someone who's going to move forward with what we're already doing with our cabinet. And my 5th one, the basic leadership attributes, including and Dr. Flores, as well as Ms. Medina mentioned, honesty, dependability, compassion, being fair, all of those ethical things that we look for in everybody. The one that came through loud and clear, not only from the online, but from the students, visit schools, and then visit all of them. Students want to see who their leader is, just like they want to see who their teachers and principals are. My number 7 is see the importance of all employees, classified as well as certificated. So there should be as much focus put on the custodian as the principal, because they both bring, they're part of that shared vision and making hope happen. So we want to see someone who's engaged with all employees. Certainly believe that, believe in all students and communicate with parents as much as possible. My number 9 is understand the city of San Bernardino. Know the pros, the cons, who's on first base, who's sliding into home plate, and who's, just kind of out in left field, not doing too much, but know the entire city. And my last one is understanding the culture of all of our students. We very seldom mention our white students, and we have them in this district, and they are as important as our African American, our Latinos, focus on our American Indians, our Pacific Islanders, and then we have our Vietnamese, our Chinese, our Japanese, our Philippine students, and we have some from Africa, Honduras, and different places, but we have a lot of cultures here, and we only focus on one or two. We need to focus on everybody because every student counts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Madam President. I imagine as we go down the line, we'll have a lot of duplication of what we've said, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet and a little bit shorter list. I just went with some of the recurring themes, one-word themes or two small sentences that kept happening again and again throughout the survey. And I know we've heard a lot of these, but obviously a person who values equity and diversity, someone that's approachable, good listener, is willing to listen to pretty much anyone throughout the community and all of our employees. Bilingual, I saw that one a lot, and I know bilingual could mean many things, but obviously somebody that values multilingualism, our multilingual programs, bilingual programs, and if they have the gift of being bilingual themselves, that would be pretty awesome as well. Continue to make hope happen in our city. I think we have a wonderful program with a lot of momentum going now. We want to make sure we keep that momentum going. It's actually the mantra of our city, and as you can see, look around a room, you see it in here as well. Proven track record of success. Don't want somebody that's going to be coming in here that hasn't proven that they're an effective leader. And an effective leader means many things. But we want to make sure that the individual that comes here, we've had some tremendous successes here in the last 8 years under Dr. Marsden's leadership. And I know it wasn't just him, it was our cabinet and all our staff out there as well that made that happen. But as I've said many times, it always starts and ends with leadership. So we got to bring in somebody here that has a track record of success. Honesty, simple as that may seem, we want an honest leader. Servant leader, I saw that quite a bit in there as well. And I think that says a lot about an individual who possesses humility and wants to work within our community. And humility obviously was another one of my words. Hold staff accountable. Okay? And a lot of times I saw holding our administrators and leadership accountable. So making sure that our leaders are doing what they need to do and our staff are as well. That could lead into many different topics. One of the biggest ones in our area right now is bullying. And then also our special ed accountability is a top priority as well. Then very simple one, but transparent as a leader. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gallo?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I kind of categorize things into, I don't know, about 8 categories here, and I'll just list them as I go down. Clearly, communication came out in almost every one of these things, visiting schools, be present, you name it. It fell into relational elements and things as well, respectful, listen, engage parents, et cetera. So communication was a big one. Probably the biggest one that I noticed was community. From our community, bond our community, visible, lives in San Bernardino, influencer, love our community, invested in our community, active participant, comfortable speaking in public, et cetera, kind of community things. Another category I had was like, and it's probably, might be not all encompassing, but it's leadership. It was kind of qualities of leadership, from all of the ones you guys mentioned, approachable, transparent, friendly, innovative, inventive, servant leader, genuine integrity. Honest was another one. Next level leadership. I had that under the next way. Dr. Flores mentioned honesty and everything, but I kind of lumped that under character. There were a lot of ones called under the character issues, caring, honest, love, a strong moral character, integrity, those types of characteristics as well. I just lumped them under good character. The other one was partnerships. Saw that mentioned several times. One who develops partnerships, community colleges, stakeholders, parents, students, et cetera. Another one that I saw that wasn't mentioned much, but it kind of struck me as I read it, was longevity, in it for the long run. Then that can drive our decisions, I would think, for a type of superintendent that we're looking for. Someone who's, going to be here for a while, and longevity. Another one I noticed was urgency, kind of a sense of urgency that kind of goes along with, just kind of our whole organization. There's a sense of urgency here because things seem to take a long time in education to actually, implement and change and things. So, having that sense of urgency that, look, we got this year's funds and this year's budgets, we've talked about it, should be spent on kids this year, not 3, 4, 5 years down the line. And so another one was kind of organizational, leadership skills, strategic thinking, STEAM-based applied learning, accountability, those types of things, customer service, collective impact, culture, creating a culture, that's kind of lumped under organizational skills. And then the last one I had was quality. View of high expectations, being systemic in what you do, and just, kind of high standards, et cetera. So that's what I had. Thank you.
Mr. Tillman?
Yes, one thing I got out a lot of the comments was the people are really concerned about making sure we have someone, or we select someone that understands and loves San Bernardino. Rabbi Cohen, made the statement that a lot of people in San Bernardino have a negative image of San Bernardino themselves. And it's something that we really need to work against. And I think there's a lot more positive than it is negative here. And I think the next leader we select, we want them to believe that and champion it, and help the district and the city at whole to let people know all the great things that are going on here. I've been on the board 25 years, and from my perspective, the district has always been progressing. The only thing I ever take exception with Dr. Marsden is when he says how bad the district was when he got here. Because from my perspective, we had been working our butt off before he got here. And we were always improving. And I agree, we continue to improve under his guidance. But the next person that comes in, I would hope they would realize the great things that we're doing and continue those things. The few items that I think are important, some of the ones that are written in terms of desired characteristics, very down to earth and really listens to all of us, genuine and real responsive. It is important to have someone who just doesn't talk the talk but walks the walk. They should have strong personal and moral development and a conviction that their job is to be a steward of state funding to serve students. This means that sometimes we have to make tough choices for adults. I want a superintendent who listens and is a wise and collaborative problem solver. We also need an instructional leader who is able to be discerning when it comes to how we allocate resources. Furthermore, we need a superintendent who can understand the complicated network of structures in a large district, but also makes first things first by ensuring that the front lines of the schools and first teaching is where we need to focus our resources, time, and leadership. Another one, successful experience in working in a diverse socioeconomic, multicultural community similar to the demographics of San Bernardino. An individual who is willing to create a supportive school culture focused on students and the empowerment of staff, implement decisions thoughtfully and effectively after considering input from all stakeholders. And then final one, although it's simple, but I think it really makes it succinct. I would like to have a qualified superintendent whose goals are student achievement, staff development, and a person who will serve the district with honesty and integrity.
Thank you. And I think for the most part, you all have captured pretty much everything. I mean, we would be repeating and repeating, but I will say, as one thing that stuck out really important is the love for San Bernardino. You know, the fact that our community is reminding us that San Bernardino is our first priority, to ensure that it's not looked upon as that someone is coming to save us again, but you're coming to support what we've already developed, what is already in place, giving credence to our workers that are currently doing the work, from the cabinet all the way to everyone that has an input to the success of our students. So I think that was great. There was two, I don't think these got read, so I do want to add these and hopefully, I don't know if we're live tonight, if those that are watching us know that we're looking at this information. This is their data. We're reading it. We're not adding to it. This is their data. But I want to read, this desired characteristic is focused on continuing what has been developed and systemized. Double down on the attention to the classroom and sites. Community stuff is great, but we have a serious achievement gap that will only be addressed by putting our collective focus on sites and systems for instruction and behaviors at the site. I would love to see more female leadership, strong moral character and integrity, and the ability to recognize that in their direct cabinet, because patience is running out within the ranks, within the overall Me Too double down standard that is pervasive and well known. And then lastly, I would like to hire another patient visionary, which is how I would describe Dr. Marsden. I would like to continue the holistic approach brought to the challenge we face with San Bernardino City Unified. Our district is the single most patient institution in the city, and we should continue to marshal every resource we can to support our community members. We want to make sure that we partner with those such as First Five, for our teens, for our family centers, and the promotion of literacy and English language acquisition for adults. So our community has spoken well, and we certainly appreciate, I think they truly gave it to us, from the heart. So Dr. Flores, did you have some additional comments?
I just wanted to add that I think as a board, we have directed, our superintendent and cabinet to continue the support of all our employees by supporting them in their unions and continue working with them. I mean, I think all around us, there are people that, fight. They're fighting for, fair wages and so forth. And I think we have such a good relationship with our SBTA, our CSEA, our police union, our substitute union, like Margaret said, that we continue to, we have to have somebody that will take that leadership and continue that as well. I know we said it, but I think I just wanted to emphasize that we all, this board, unanimously supports that.
Thank you. Are there any other additional comments towards the work we just reviewed? No. So now there are our next steps. We're going to take this information that we have heard from our community, gathered from our community, just input that we arrived at initially, which is on the board right now. And now our next step is to determine our process. Yes, Mr. Tillman.
I'd like to do something that's not on the. I'd like to make a suggestion and just ask for board support. I think in reading these and listening to the public that there may be somebody that fits a lot of these things to a T. And I'd like for us to agendize next board meeting and we don't have to, you don't have to, we can do it now, but I would like to recommend somebody at our next meeting for appointment of superintendent. And if we don't agree that the person I recommend is the person for the job, then we can go through with a search. I've been through a number of superintendent searches, so I know how they work. I know how long it takes, and the processes, but I think there's somebody that I spoke to recently who'd be willing to take the job, who I think is well qualified to do the things we're talking about tonight. So I was just asking that if the board be willing to agendize
I
it.
would second that.
Yes, discussion.
Talking about next board meeting as of next week? Okay. All right, and are we gonna have enough time to digest this and kind of
Yeah.
what everybody said?
That again will be my recommendation, as well as we do have to, there's maybe some further discussion we want to have, but I hear what your recommendation and as well.
I can support the agendizing it, but I think I might want, can we do it the second board meeting?
But to me, if it's not if I make the proposal and it's not an obvious, overwhelming pick, then it's going to go away anyway. We're going to do a search. But I'm not confident that it'll be somebody that will agree that it is the best pick. The only reason I'm not going to say the name tonight is because, number one, I haven't gotten approval from the candidate to say, yes, I'm willing to be publicly recognized as your person. But if you guys agree to allow us to take it up next week, then I'll make sure I contact that person and see if they agree.
Madam President,
Yes.
point of order. There's a motion and a second. And we're having discussion,
They're in a
board
discussion.
discussion,
I
and
have a
then we take a vote.
Like to talk about it.
They're discussing it. That's the reason why I can't move forward. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the question is, are we going to accept applications? First question, there's probably half a dozen names that I've heard that might be interested in this position. Would we open that for consideration and have an evaluation process or some kind of a compete process before you even initiate a national search? I mean, would you look at candidates? Do we open up an application process here? What do we want to do here? If we put a name out on the table, then clearly it's like a up or down vote, I guess, at some point. We'll have a discussion on it. I have no issue with that at all, having a discussion about it.
Mr. Tillman?
Would we accept other nominations, so to speak? That's just a question I have.
And I agree. I think the perfect example of how we could do it is the same way we nominate and select president of a board, right? So if we make the nomination of a candidate and that person gets the 4 votes, then that person would be the person to get the job. Now, if the person doesn't get the 4 votes, then someone could nominate someone else if they get the 4 votes. If no one gets the votes that night, then we'll go out for the search. But I'm just proposing that there are people that work as superintendents who we all know, and we can make a decision without having to go and do a background check. That's what I'm saying. Somebody who is someone that we all know and be able to vote on, yes or no. Because there's nothing magical about a search. When you go through a search, in the end, you're going to end up with some folks that you do know, and you're going to make that vote. Now, if the worst case scenario in a search is they bring a whole lot of people before you that you don't know, and then you end up doing a background check and going to their district and visiting their districts. And let me say this. The only reason why I'm asking this, there are a lot of high-quality superintendents who do not want to go through a search process. They just won't. And so you immediately, when you go through the regular hiring of a search firm, they're going to come and tell you there are certain people who don't want to do it because they're not going to want people to name them as looking for another superintendent job. And there are those exceptional folks that they handle in a different way, and this is one of those ways.
Is there additional comments? Dr. Hill?
Thank you. And excuse me, and I don't have anything against that, Mr. Tillman, but as you mentioned, you have someone, and there's 6 more people up here who might have one.
And I said that's okay.
Yeah, but I don't want us, I'd like for us to kind of be on the same accord. You know, when we make the recommendation, what I like for us to do is just take a look at the things we talked about tonight and maybe some type of check-off system. Because, you know, there might be somebody who lives in Palm Springs, but, you know, that may not fit the mode, or it may be, it could be someone who lives here who fits the mode. But I think it's important that we don't stifle the thinking of the other 6 board members. If there is a recommendation to bring before us, that we can at least talk about it. So agendizing isn't a problem, and I think it's important for us to do that, to talk about it. So I can support the motion. I would like a little more time than, February the 3rd, or 4th, whatever. 4th.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Flores?
Yes, I second the motion because I concur with Mr. Tillman. As board members, we have to agendize it so the public knows that we can discuss it. And ultimately, we have the vote. And if majority votes for it, then that, you know, that's it. If we can also delay it next week, you know, if we want to. But it's important to agendize it so we can have that discussion. And so I don't know if anybody else has any more to say, but I would like to call the question.
Yeah, I have another,
Mr. Gallo.
just comment that basically what this does is it stops the process. It doesn't elicit any more or invite any other people to submit an application to the process, and it'll draw it to a vote. I would imagine this is what we're putting on the agenda, to actually
Yes.
vote on it at whatever meeting we decide we want to do it on.
My motion is for the next meeting.
Okay, so for the next meeting, that we would actually vote on a candidate without receiving any applications.
Or multiple candidates. And I guarantee,
okay.
and I guarantee you, when you hear, I'm not going to bring somebody who is going to be questionable or suspect. If it is, we shouldn't vote that person in. If you don't receive the candidate and think the way I think, that the person will be absolutely fabulous for San Bernardino, then you vote no, and we go out for a search.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that we, go out with a national search either at this time. I'm just thinking, receiving applications and doing some kind of an assessment, of the applications we get before you just bring something to a vote. It's just timing. Ultimately, it's going to come to that. We're going to be bringing someone and presenting them to, for a vote. And we're going to be saying it. So, I'm not one to prolong a process, mind you, Danny. I'm not arguing about that. So, I could be okay with this. This is pretty quick, it's next Tuesday, right?
Right.
Is it next Tuesday? Is that our board meeting? Next Tuesday. Okay, so, right.
Dr. Hill?
Yeah, in my comment, I'm certainly not in support of a national search. I don't think that's the only option we have. In fact, I hope it's not an option at all as we listen to the community, the students, staff members and all. I see a national search. That's not a part of the solution at all. I was just saying, in case, I'm not going to ask people, do you have anybody, do you have anybody, do you have anybody? But I think, I want to honor my fellow board members. If you do have somebody, give us, give fellow board members an opportunity bring forth someone as well.
Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Madam President. And I think we've taken a lot of time from our community, a lot of input just a week ago. And I like to err a little bit on the side of time and wisdom. And I think there are probably, like we said here on this board, many candidates that we all could think about in mind. Some folks that are vested deeply into this community, have history in this community, and have a proven track record, everything we have on our list. I don't want folks to think that we dismiss others either that maybe are interested in the position, that would like to at least have a shot at the position. I think we owe it to some folks out there to at least recognize those that if they wanted to interview, that we hold them in high regard. I know Mr. Tillman and us up here, we I'm sure have quite a few folks in mind, but and maybe even who's in mind right now. And I could probably support such a decision. I just don't know if I could support it this Tuesday. I think that's just too quick for me to make a decision.
President, I'll give you a perfect example. And I guess in light of the tragedy with Kobe Bryant, I'll use the basketball analogy. So if we were to say we're going to do a agenda this for next week, I'm going to name players like LeBron James. Who else would be in LeBron James's? Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, the Greek giant. Those are all names that people in basketball know. I'm not going to name somebody who came in the league and we think has potential to make the team. So if I'm not naming those names, I would expect you to say, I'm not going to support that. The name that I'm talking about is going to be an obvious name. Now, if the name doesn't fly, I totally want to be open, transparent, and fair. So you could say that name got voted down, but I want to nominate somebody. I'm not saying you can't nominate other people. Now, I will say this. Be fair to people who haven't gone through the process. Until you go through a superintendent search, you really do think there's something magical about the search. And you really do think there are these huge people throughout the country that could be great for San Bernardino as a superintendent. I'm telling you, I've been through this 4 times, searches. Twice when we did the search for, that ended up hiring Dr. Delgado. We did a nationwide search. We had everybody meet with the stakeholders. We had the candidate that they thought was on paper the best. When he did his interview, he had written all his answers in his hand. And so it was so disappointing that you just couldn't believe that you couldn't come up with better candidates. When we did the search the last time, we went through a whole nationwide search again. Dr. Marsden was not the pick. He was Dr. Marsden.
So Mr. Tillman,
So my point is, there is a way.
Right.
If there are, I'm just.
And so, Mr. Tillman, I do believe that if we just dial back from what we've heard from the community, what we've heard from here, I don't believe a national search is even in the part of the conversation. Now, what is now before us right now in this vote is that there is a desire that you have someone that you know. However, what I'm hearing from the board is they need some digest time. That is really what I'm hearing before we start going back into how it looked like, because we certainly don't want to do anything that doesn't look above board. Okay, we want to make sure that we are being transparent with what we've said. So the national search is over. That's not part of this. But I'm not hearing a full consensus on just the time frame of wanting to do it. This is what I'm getting. And so board members, that's why we're doing this publicly, so we can be upfront and just voice our concerns. So I'm going to hear from Mr. Gallo. Wait, I'm going to hear from Mr. Gallo.
One on the analogy of the basketball analogy. If you had 4 people that were of equal caliber, and we don't know that yet, you might want to have a discussion about which of the 4 that you may want to make that ultimate,
Right now.
decision on. If you pick just the four names that you mentioned and pick the first one, is that the fairest for the team? Would that be the one for the team? I mean, you'd wanna-
So let me propose this.
I'm just suggesting you to drive it to a vote that quickly
So let me
might
pro-
not be the
let me-
right
let me-
answer.
Let me propose this.
Yeah.
I still want to have the motion for next week, but I'll propose this. If there are other names, before we nominate a name, we will have discussion on all the names that are brought up.
All right, so then my turn.
Yes.
So honestly, with,
Hold on.
But just
Hold
one,
on.
just
Go
let me
ahead.
finish.
Go ahead, finish. Go ahead, finish your
just
thought.
That we would maybe want to have more than from, what day is today? Thursday, so 4 days to bring those additional 3 rock stars to the table is all I'm suggesting. So.
my thing is that when you have one board make a recommendation, when you have another board make another recommendation, I mean, even then, we still have to look at the resume. We still have to look at the history. We still have to look at their experience. We have to look at the whole process. It's not just select one person, vote them in, and vote them in. Even if they were a high-class basketball player, as and using that. We still have to see everything else with it. So we can make recommendations, but at the same time, we also have to see who you pick. And that same day, I can't vote necessarily for the whole background and making sure that we're being transparent in a way where we're not just saying, oh, each board member gets to pick one person, whoever we pick, that's it. There has to be more to that process of hiring someone. And I'm not disagreeing, I'm just saying there has to be a little bit more time so we can actually get who you select, who the other board members have in mind, and get their full experience, report, resume, everything else, so it's not just on the hand, we're gonna vote that same moment for who that person is.
Madam President?
Yes.
In the end, there's consequences to the process I'm proposing. And if I bring somebody and the community and the stakeholders don't agree that this person is the best for San Bernardino, then you're right, I'm in trouble and everybody's in trouble. But I don't think that's the case. So I still have, you can vote it down. There's a motion. I still want to make the motion to have the
Right.
the presentation at the next board meeting and agendize to make a superintendent appointment. It can be voted down. I won't get my feelings hurt. This is part of the process.
All right. Okay, we're going to call for the vote. And we're verbal voting, so we'll start with Ms. Rosales-Medina.
I would have to say no because it's too soon. I think the second board meeting would have been enough, would have been good time.
I vote yes.
I vote no.
I vote no.
And one yes.
All right, so motion did
Timing.
motion did not pass. So let's have this, if we can, have this discussion, because we will eventually have to have the discussion on the time. Now we're back, because that is part of the major concern on the time and what it is we want to do in the next step. Yes.
I'll just, I think you probably want to open up an application process, would be my recommendation. That you receive applicants in a timely fashion here. So just so you got a list of candidates that have actually expressed an interest in, and obviously you would not publicize this for a whole host of reasons. One is certainly privacy of the individuals not wishing to tell their current employers they're seeking other employment, potentially. So I think from that perspective, we would want to do that and receive, I think, some applicants,
Okay.
my recommendation.
That's one option. Is there any other recommendations or options? Yes, Dr. Flores?
There's many ways to conduct a search. I understand what Mr. Tillman is saying. in terms of the characteristics that our community has given. And I'm aware and know of other boards that appoint a person without any, well, they do go through their resumes and all of that, and they appoint them. We invite people to apply, and if we want to. What Mr. Tillman is suggesting, if there's someone that fits all these criteria, I mean, it is our right as a board to appoint them, because we are taking into consideration all of our communities, all the stakeholders' recommendations. That is possible. I mean, but we are a governing board, and we vote on the majority, majority rules. It's a democratic process. So I propose in the next steps, if, we as board members want to appoint, or not appoint, but recommend people. I don't know what the process is in terms, I know we have to keep in mind their privacy, because of, it's really, really, really personal, and they don't want their employers to know. So that's a condition, that we have to have that trust with candidates. So I'm not sure, Mr. Tillman, do you want to respond to me, or what I just said?
I agree with you totally. Either you're going to have a process or you're not. And you're right. I'm saying that I don't want a process. But I'll defer to how the board wants to do it. I gave it a shot, and I'll just sit back and hear what we're going to do. If you're talking about taking applications and going through them in a private way, you're not going to have it open. It's not going to be an open process. It's not going to be something agendized and you can take care of it open. So somehow, I guess you're going to take applications and review them at one meeting, and then come out with a recommendation after you review applications.
This is what I would like to propose. I don't know if the board would be open to this, that we agendize this in our closed session for our next meeting. We discuss it. And if we do have people that we have in mind, that we know their track record, we invite them to, submit or ask them if they want. We don't even know if they want to leave or wherever they're at. And then we proceed from there in terms of where we're going to go. So I would like to agendize this for closed session.
And I want to ask for clarity, because I think are we able to do, are you familiar with that legally, or can we do that? Because that sounds, again, like it's still buying the time that we needed before in what we had before us before. So are we able to do what Dr. Flores was mentioning?
So board, the decision is totally yours. And the process to lead to the decision is totally yours.
Okay.
So you voted it down, but you could have done what Mr. Tillman suggested and appointed someone next week.
But in this process, what we're doing and what I'm starting to hear, we're still surrounding the process of an appointment possibility. Obviously, we can do that, but there is some discussion that's wanting to have in closed session vote versus.
You will eventually appoint no matter what process you use, right?
Okay, so that answers what you're saying. And did I see your hand up, Dr. Hill?
I want to propose two things. One, if we can have a discussion, not an appointment, but a discussion at the board meeting, I'll be more than happy to make a motion for that. Mr. Tillman, you here? Mr. Tillman? Mr. Danny Tillman? Who's been on the board for 25 years? Mr. Tillman? If we could agendize to have a discussion, but not an appointment. But the other thing is, I'm not supportive of the application process at all, especially if there are people that we know that we feel will fit the bill of what the community said to us. Because I know that's gonna take a long time if if you go through that. And if I were a superintendent out there or assistant superintendent, I wouldn't take that gamble of information getting back to my supervisor or to my board. So I wouldn't do that. All I'm saying is we can still follow the same process that Mr. Tillman is talking about. I just don't want to do it Tuesday because, even as we take a look at what the community asked for, there are some names mentioned in there. And I don't think it would be really fair to the people who are listed in here by the community if we make a decision, we're going to make an appointment Monday, because then we don't want people to say we don't care about them. We do care about them. But I just want to take time to just look.
Would you vote for the motion for the next meeting after that?
So the time, that's what we were trying, so let me just, and I got you. That is really what was being said before we kind of veered off.
When's the next
Is
meeting
the
after that?
time, well, the one is in 4 days, and that is
No,
just
what's
seems
the one
to
after
be.
that?
I don't know, I don't have it maybe
Mr.
the
Tillman, it's
18th.
my turn.
But hold on a second, So I'm trying to get clarity back because because we are hearing that. That's what we heard before, so I don't want us to get off track. We heard that, I'm hearing that again, and I just want to make sure that we are hearing the same thing. We're hearing what you said, Mr. Tillman, but there was a reserve on the time, the swiftness, and taking under consideration what we just digested today. So when we're looking at the next coming up motions, because I don't think we need to go on, we're going to have to make a decision on that type of motion. But I want everybody to be clear. Okay.
I concur. That's what I was recommending, Dr. Hill, that we agendize it for our closed session. So I second your motion. And I second your motion for us to discuss it in closed session. And then from that, we decide where we're going to go next.
Okay, there's a motion. Okay.
Just whatever motion we're now having a discussion on. Well, I haven't heard a second, so.
No, Barbara second this one.
Oh, seconded, oh, did
Dr.
Margaret
Hills.
made a motion?
Yes.
What was the motion again? To discuss it and close
Made
it?
a motion to discuss it next week in closed session, and then the following board meeting, make a recommendation for an appointment.
Okay, this is part of the discussion.
I had a discussion too.
Just when I mentioned an application submission, I mean, it's simply someone saying, a candidate expressing an interest and having some way of expressing that. I would call that an application process, be it that they have talked to one of you and
Same
you forward
as
their
what
name
Mr.
forward
Tillman's
or whatever.
proposing.
But I'm just saying, I'm not suggesting that we go through this lengthy application process that's filling out your FAFSA for student loans.
Got it.
I'm not suggesting that.
Okay, that's got it. That's back to kind of the same process, yes.
Just for clarification, remember, right now, there's a member of the Board of Supervisors whose appointment is under
That's why I asked the legal question.
the discussion. So when you say you're going to do something in closed session, you can't, you cannot say, I give this person number one, or this person number two. That has to be done
Oh,
public.
open, right.
The only thing you'll be able to do in closed session will be to keep the names
That's
secret
what we want, exactly,
and read the information.
exactly.
But if you wanted to consider any of those people, their name would have to be nominated in public. So, so I guess what you would do next meeting would be to receive other applications, but we couldn't discuss it in closed session. I don't know what the closed session part is.
The time on just what we kind of just said, and we're just
Review
giving
other
ourselves
applications.
more time and to
Okay.
review or hear or try to get an
So
understanding.
is the motion?
There is a motion.
Is the motion
Did you-
to do a closed session?
Ms.
at the-
Rosales-Medina, are
at
you on
the-
the mic?
at the board meeting on the 4th?
Yes.
And then agendize for the
Halloween.
18th for an appointment?
Yes,
I'll go along with that.
if that's what we decide.
If
That's what we decide, Danny, in closed session.
right, because for an
I
appointment.
said on the 18th, it will be agendized for an appointment in public.
If that's what we arrive at.
Or if you're going to waive multiple people,
Right, if we arrive at.
exactly, on the 18th.
From the 18th, not,
Yeah, I mean, you're going to, that's what, yeah,
no,
exactly, right. Oh, it has to be made, the
Yeah.
decision has to be made in public.
right. And that's what are we good? Are we good? Okay, so there is a motion and a second on the floor. Let's vote. Mr. Tillman? Well, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but
If I do that, then Dr. Flores gonna
review
get me.
Review the bidding again. This is to meet in closed session to discuss.
4th.
On the 4th, to
Next
discuss the process.
Discuss the process.
Right.
But you added another thing to it that said you're deciding now that you're
No,
going to
no,
appoint someone on the 18th?
no.
Okay, so that's out it. So
We're gonna
the only
discuss the
thing is,
process.
We're going to go to closed session to discuss the process. Fine. Okay, that's it. That's the
We're
motion.
agenda.
Arrive at
we're-
what will happen after
Motion.
that.
We cannot discuss the process in closed session.
We
The only
can't?
thing No, the only thing you could do in closed session would be to review the applications. Yeah,
Oh,
you
okay.
cannot discuss,
So you want to discuss
being open-
you want to discuss the person that you want to appoint. Okay.
Or others.
Or others. That's
you're
fine.
not gonna lobby
Okay.
one way or another.
I'm fine
Or
with that.
others.
all the weight, all the lobbying, all the voting has to be done in public.
Right.
Correct.
So my only point is, remember, so in closed session, all we're going to do is look at the application that we received, and if the people don't want to be made public, we
Okay.
won't make their names public.
That's fine. That Margaret says it's okay. Yeah.
Are we clear?
And I'm okay with it
Are
too.
we clear?
Yeah.
Clear. And then,
Yeah,
It's inherent in there as the
Okay.
process.
yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
just wanting to make sure that we've not established a timeline by next Monday for submissions of any interested candidates.
We're just
In
talking.
here, fine.
We're just talking.
are we good?
Call for
Everybody?
the,
Everyone, all right. So I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All right. There are no nays. Any nays? Are there any nays? All right. Got it? Motion carried. Okay, so I think that was the bulk of our work tonight. Is everybody clear? So I just want to, as we prepare to adjourn, I want to adjourn in memory of Erica Lopez, our Lytle Creek teacher passed away. And we want to, let's have a moment of silence. And we also want to remember our Dara Rosa student who also is in the hospital and her entire family. We want to keep them in our hearts and in our prayers. Meeting adjourned.